And then I have another headline. On the very day that Obama announced the Volcker plan,
yes,
the Supreme Court rolls back campaign finance restrictions.
Right.
So the U.S. is bracing for a free-for-all. Apparently now all corporations in America can now spend unlimited amounts of money
Right.
On any campaign, any political campaign, whether it's federal, national, state level, local level. So they could own the entire thing. But now it's so blatant. It's just open.
Well, yeah, Supreme Court members are themselves big owners of stocks. You know, they have to recuse themselves every once in a while because of their conflict of interest. But, you know, the fact is that they're just conflicted from day one. And it makes sense that they would be voting on behalf of their own pocketbook. So this Supreme Court is about as valid as the judiciary in Argentina circa 2000, 2001. They're just completely beholden to their corporate paymasters.
Well, you do bring up Latin America, and it does remind me kind of a banana republic. The original, United Fruit created basically the term banana republic by creating these nations where the population was unable to do anything about the political system. United Fruit would force in any president that they wanted. They owned the system, and it became very open when United Fruit was there, and the U.S. would send in under Eisenhower, like they overthrew Guatemala's publicly elected officials. And this is a situation where now we have the America is as much open as what it was pre-1954 in Guatemala, that United Fruit ran the system there. Now we have the same situation in America where corporations can openly just buy any politician they want.
Yeah, I mean, Goldman Sachs is like Wild Bill, Buffalo Bill in the Wild West. You know, go across the country killing Indians and killing buffalo. But the remaining Indians were like, not us, this will never happen to us. No. They all eventually found themselves on a reservation and basically almost exterminated. This is like America today. All the existing people who live in America are being, gunned down essentially with financial derivative terrorist products, and they're being slaughtered wholesale. And the remaining Americans are like, well, it won't happen to us, it won't happen to us. Meanwhile, they're being forced into extinction.
Now, the Supreme Court decision was a 5-4 split, and it was pretty much the Republican appointees, led by Justice Roberts, who were all for overturning this precedence in the Supreme Court and allowing private corporations to have the rights of personhood and to spend unlimited amounts of money on campaigns.
Now we have a couple of minutes here to go into this. Talk about this rights of personhood. This is
well, I'm going to in one moment, because I wanted to say the dissent came from Justice John Paul Stevens, who accused the majority of judicial activism. Now, this is always an accusation coming from the right or the conservatives, the Republicans in America, will often accuse the Supreme Court of judicial activism because they don't like any laws that help the population, for example. If it helps people or poor people, they don't like that. In this case, they don't mind it. But Justice John Paul Stevens says the conceit that corporations must be treated identically to natural persons in the political sphere is not only inaccurate, but also inadequate to justify the court's disposition of this case. Now, I wondered to myself, why is it that suddenly, the Republicans are very much against human rights for real humans, but for artificial persons, such as a corporation, they seem to be all for human rights. They're all celebrating the free speech of these artificial persons. And then I remembered, why are they so in favor of artificial persons? And then I remembered this picture from a Republican convention, and this is Dick Cheney's wife, George Bush's wife, and Donald Rumsfeld's wife. And I thought, they kind of look artificial to me, don't they?
Well, blow-up technology's come a long way since those days. But, yeah, this is the Stepford president, the Stepford vice president, the Stepford Cheney, and the Stepford Cheney wife, Lynn Cheney. They're all basically automatons. They're all fighting for rights of computers they themselves want because they're machines, and their object is to kill humanity, and they're doing a good job of it. But corporate personhood makes no sense, as you point out. In other words, the corporate personhood is it's like they use it in a very abusive manner. Like they use when a ship spills oil out there in the water, there's nobody who claims ownership of that ship. They use not a false flag. They use a Is it a false flag?
They use a flag of convenience.
Flag of convenience. Exactly. So this is another example of this. This is a legal precedent of convenience. It's convenient to say that corporations are people because it makes people money. At the same time, as you point out, they're destroying human rights and civil rights for their actual people because, again, it also makes money.
Well, in Timothy Geithner's earlier, the clip I showed you, he was talking about banks having the privilege of borrowing from the government at 0% and lending out to people at a huge markup. Now, I think that in America, people should start a campaign for persons to get corporate rights. Because look at Goldman Sachs, the biggest profits in the history of their company, paid 1% tax rate last year. Why? Because all of the income came through the Cayman Islands. You, as an individual American, as we know from the last year, you can't do the same.
Right. So in other words, instead of trying to downsize Goldman Sachs and to make them smaller and to make it more difficult for them to engage in proprietary trading, which is basically riskless trading where they get the ability to borrow money with no interest cost, and if they make a mistake, they get bailed out, why not have people lobby for the same rights as Goldman? See, not only would this make more people more money, but it would give Goldman something that they desperately need, that's desperately lacking, some competition. The reason Goldman makes so much money is because they have no competition. They blew out Lehman Brothers. They killed Lehman Brothers in that controlled demolition. Remember, they took him out. It was a mafia mob hit. Bear Stearns was taken out, and now they got no competition. I'll give the people the ability to compete with this schmata on Wall Street.
Well, maybe the mafia can lead the charge saying that we want to put all of our crimes in an offshore entity so that we don't have to serve any time. We go to white-collar prison.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back.